Hey everybody, DIY Dad here, back for another video. Today we're going to do a simple closet organizer for my son. So my son's bedroom is kind of small. We've been moving some stuff around a little bit to try to make it fit a little bit better. And as part of that, we've moved his desk into his closet. And what I'm going to do today is build an organizer around his desk. So ignore how messy the desk is. He's 8. This stuff happens. Essentially what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to build a shelf at the level of the top of this desk that's going to go from that corner of that wall all the way here to the edge of the desk. I'm going to put an upright up like this. Goes up about a foot, 13 inches above that shelf. And then I'll do another shelf across the top of all of that, going all the way to that corner of the wall. This bar I'm going to take out. I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to put 2 small bars here and here that he can reach better. So we'll end up with a double stack clothes hanger rack, and then we'll have essentially 3 shelves, the one that already exists, as well as a long shelf that goes all the way across, and then a shorter shelf that goes across the top of the desk and ends here. Design-wise then, this is going to be pretty simple. So what I'm going to do is measure the size of this desk. I've got it placed as far back into the corner as I can because of the overhang here with the kind of the edge of the closet door. So I'll measure from this edge here to the wall, as well as this edge here down. I'm going to cut a shelf that is that wide, and essentially I'm going to use the desk more or less for support, but I'm not going to attach to the desk. So initially I'm going to lay the shelf across the top, mark on the wall where it's going to hit the wall, and then put a support underneath it so it'll kind of sit there but not actually be fully supported by the desk. And then, like I said, for the vertical, I'm going to go from the bottom here, add in the measurement for the thickness of that shelf, then add, I have 11-inch square bins I'm going to be using, so I think it will go about 13 inches just to give a little bit of extra room. So I'll go 13 inches up from that one and measure that height. That's going to be the height of my upright, and then the top shelf will be kind of the same thing. So it'll get laid across the upright. It's going to go here to the wall. We'll make it level, mark the wall. Same thing on the other side, make it level, mark the wall. I'll put a support similar to the existing shelves there. So that'll support it on either side, and then it'll just be, tacking it in a few spots into the wall for support. So essentially we're going to build this out of 3 boards. I'm using pre-cut shelving that's kind of finished on one side, just available from a hardware store. I'm going to cut one of them. It's a 48-inch board right now. I'm going to cut it to 40.5 inches. That's going to be the top piece over the desk. I'll cut one here that'll be my vertical. That one I'm going to cut at 53 inches. And then my one across, it's going to go from end to end, goes at 58 inches. So those 3 boards together are going to make this entire system. I'll use the scrap that I cut off to do the support pieces, so I can run a couple of supports along the back wall and under the sides to hold this steady once I've got it marked and level. 2 pieces cut in place so you can get kind of the feel for this. So I have the upright here at 53 inches. I have the crossbar at about 40. So I'm actually just kind of rest this on the desk, and then I'll mark where it hits the wall and put a support on that side. And then we'll do some pocket screws on this one going into that piece. So that'll hold that together. And then for the top one, we'll kind of rest the shelf that goes all the way across. So obviously that stuff moves. So we'll rest the shelf that goes all the way across, mark underneath when it's level. So we have that line. And I'll put a couple support pieces in that it can sit on. And then we'll run a couple screws up into it just to hold it. And we should pretty much be done. At that point, it's just putting the pockets and the 2 closet rails on the left. So everything's cut and dry fit, so now we get to put it all together. So for this, I'm just gonna be using a couple pocket holes and just some simple pocket hole screws to attach everything. If you're not familiar with pocket holes, I've talked about this a number of times in different videos. This is a Craig pocket hole jig, and what it does is it will drill a hole at an angle so that when you sink a screw into it, the screw will get recessed into this board and come straight out of here. It's a much cleaner way to fasten things like this together. You do have to just make sure though, when you're using this tool, measure the thickness of your material, and there's a gauge on the bottom of this that you have to set. And then there's a gauge on your drill. You set this little depth finder here to make sure that you don't over drill and kind of go through the material. So I'll get these drilled, and I'm going to go up into the room and we'll piece it all together. So this is what pocket holes look like after they've been drilled. And if you did it correctly, you should have just a small amount that went through. That's where the screw is actually going to seat. And then when the screw gets tightened in, it'll cinch the two pieces of material together pretty cleanly. And for what we're doing, that's going to hold us pretty well for this closet. And like magic, here we have the assembled finished product. So nothing fancy with this. This is 3 pieces of shelving and a little bit of support. So I've got my son's rod for all his hanging stuff here. It wasn't quite high enough to put a second one in without things dragging on the floor. And after we kind of put some things in here, I think this is all he's really going to need. So he's got his shelves where he can put bins of things or just random Legos. Obviously, he's already moved in. These shelves, as I said, are just kind of pre-cut shelving. The holes to connect them together I hid on the side here. You can see some of the supports underneath, but again, it's a closet in a kid's room. I'm not overly worried about it. So this top shelf is supported by the vertical, by an end piece, a middle piece here, and this. Bottom shelf is supported by an end piece here. It's hooked into the vertical there with pocket screws. And then the desk is actually supporting it as well. This desk is an IKEA thing. It's actually pretty cool. It's a modular thing. They sell it as a desk / changing table. So if you flip this whole thing over, it becomes a kid's changing table. But then when you flip it back this way, it becomes this really nice, very deep, kind of perfectly wide desk, great for a laptop, that kind of thing when they're doing virtual school. They've got all their little shelves and drawers underneath. So pretty easy project and not hard to put together. Decent afternoon worth of work. So this being the end of a DIY dad video, I owe you a dad joke. And since we're talking about closets and that sort of thing, why does a well-organized closet lead to a calm life? Well, because of all of the focus on hanger management. All right, remember, with any DIY project, it doesn't have to be perfect. Most important step is just to do it. No one's going to see the flaws unless you point them out to them. Have a great afternoon. Catch you on the next one. Bye.